Circle, circle, dot, dot, now you have your cootie shot. Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are reviewing the Mac Miller record, Circles. This is the sixth studio album and first posthumous release from the American rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, Mac Miller. This album is all R&B, as we had Mac team up with John Bryan, who is a producer. He's helped out artists like Kanye, Frank Ocean, Fiona Apple, Beyonce, pretty wide range of artists. John Bryan met Mac while he was working on his previous album Swimming, which Circles here is a companion piece to. You might remember that Swimming was more rap oriented, as we had some collaborations with Thundercat to add a bit more of jazz and funk to a lot of the compositions. And now we have the other piece of the puzzle with Circles. I guess we had one half of the semicircle with Swimming, and then now we have the other half that we are sticking together. With Circles, though, it is definitely a lot more vulnerable when it comes to the lyrics and also even the musicality. We have lots of more exploration when it comes to the melody, the harmony, the texture. These elements of music, especially the instrumentation, were expressed and arranged through the subdued and minimal instrumentals put together by John Bryan based on conversations that he had with Mac before his passing in September of 2018. Either John added some live instrumentation or he did some overdubbing, but these are the kinds of things you can expect to hear on Circles without even hearing a song. For me, personally, coming into this record, I was not a Mac Miller fan. I never really bothered to listen to his music. I couldn't really get into his style nor his voice, not only with Swimming, but pretty much his entire catalog. Hence why I had little to no expectations going into this project, not to mention that I've never really had high expectations for posthumous records, at least over the past couple years. However, clearing the slate, making a clean slate, Mac dropped his lead single for this album a week prior to the album's full release. This is called Good News, and let's just say this track changed my mindset for this album drastically. Good News has now evolved to be my favorite song of this year, and yes, I know we've had a small sample given that it's still January, but by the end of the year I can have a good feeling about this one being one of my favorites after all is said and done. For me, with Good News, I love the plucky instrumental, the expanded outro, and even with the short amount of time that we've had to digest or unpack and soak up the lyrical themes and musical direction for this project, just that 1 week before the album, even with that, it has become clear quite quickly that Good News was a good indicator, a solid indicator for the mental struggles that Mac had been going through. On Good News, Mac has so many good, insightful lines about suppressing negative thoughts and feelings while everyone around him, including his fans, just want to hear the good news. That's absolutely heartbreaking as a narrative to follow on this record. Being on a different page with his fans and friends seems to consume Mac on other songs too, especially with Complicated. On the song, Mac is saying that some people want to live forever, yet he thinks that's way too long. He'd rather just get through today, which that is an admirable statement to make, because people that are too future focused or oriented on the future, they tend to get too caught up with that they might lose focus with what's in front of them or in the present. Now, going back to what I said about the musical elements being explored a bit more on this album, I enjoy a great deal of the melodies, especially on this album, Circles. The track That's On Me has a nice swelling 6/8 time signature. Blue World is also a prime example for that, as the vocals are warped into this instrumental. We have rich texture and a song that is oriented based on the melody. Even with Blue World's sample of It's a Blue World performed by the Four Freshmen, I feel like Mac derives a great sense of musical inspiration from other artists while remaining a musical inspiration himself. Elsewhere on this project, there's a tune on here that doesn't have an original melody to it. It's called Everybody. This one's actually an Arthur Lee cover, done with justice though. We have this unified message about living and dying and the desire to have a good time in between. This fits very well into the Circles narrative lyrically, but it also fits well into the musical recipe of this album, as the song Everybody starts with a similar recipe that what most songs have on this album here, with the minimal piano chords. Those piano chords eventually build into some nice catchy chorus with the O's. Moving on from there, making this album feel more cohesive, we have songs on this project that hold it together as glue, like the song Woods. This track has a seamless transition from the previous song Everybody. It also pushes the sonic direction forward with an ambient and subdued synthesizer. The song also sees the first real rap flow and delivery from Mac on this album. Connected to the lyrical themes and setting the stage for Circles, though, is the opening track, which I also appreciate for its messaging about this summation of the circle of life. You know, Mac is acknowledging that we can kind of feel directionless in life and feel like we're stuck in these cycles as well, and how we're unable to break free of certain habits. And sure, at times this album's going to be heavily contextual to the death of Mac, but I believe songs like Circles is a compelling entry point into this album and just picks up right where Swimming left off on a more captivating front too. In addition to that, supporting Circles with deep cuts, we have highlights on here including Hand Me Downs. This track is a tranquil and quiet tune. It features Bero Suro in the chorus, the only feature on this album, I believe. On the song Hand Me Downs, Mac is reflecting on his methods of coping. It sees him expose himself to other people and just make himself more susceptible. The second longest track is also enticing with its ambitious deep cut approach. This one is called Surf. We have fuzz guitar that pokes through for the cut. Is comparable to Good News for its structure. Both have that expanded outro, and this is most likely when John Bryan took full advantage of his ability to produce and perform on the album instrumentally, and it was effective to fill the runtime where Mac only had some lyrics written for the album, filling those holes or that void that the original artist was intending to fill before their passing. It's got to be hard to fill with John Bryan being the main person. There was a song on here that I didn't really enjoy as much because I could just tell that there was something missing, maybe Mac's influence, something like that. But that song that I'm thinking of is called Hands, and this one comes together clumsily. It feels like there's this lacking of some sort of creative juice. On Hands, the chorus is repeated way too often. We had this odd vocal loop that's thrown in there too, just not the greatest implementation of musical ideas. It feels like things were running a bit sparse here. The mainstay for this album, though, picking up for that letdown of a song, is the closer cut, Once a Day, which has the most direct and truthful lyrics of this batch of songs. The album comes literally full circle with the realization that keeping things bottled up, keeping emotions under wraps, it only leads to consuming levels of regret. As I said, these are the most straightforward lyrics. I don't think I could put them in any better way than what Mac has phrased in his own lyrics. It's actually incredible how very little words Mac needs to have his vision of this album fulfilled or completed, because yes, this is a melancholic album, one that you will need a very specific mindset to enjoy and soak up all the ruminating atmospheres and the downtrodden moods. And yes, it is contextually dependent on the death of Mac Miller, but I think its final package is stunning and it rests Mac in peace. And despite a slow pace at times, Circles is a beautiful display of the posthumous record done right. There aren't too many interpretations that are off, or what I would imagine being off from what Mac was attempting to do with the messaging of his lyrics. The instrumentation even encapsulates the vulnerability very well. I think it captures the mood that Mac was crooning with through his vocals, and I think a lot of the praise should be handed to John Bryan. His approach to this project was not only respectful through the overdubbing and production, but I feel like we get a strong reflection of a vision that couldn't have been achieved by many people who spent as much time as John did with Mac during his final days. Let's get this straight. There was a big risk with Circles, but a big reward paid off here. We had very tasteful tackling of mental states and coping. I was absolutely enthralled and moved by this album. Emotionally, it is tough to get through, and even as an outsider, not being a Mac Miller fan to begin with, I walk away from Circles enlightened and overcome with sadness. Sometimes That is a true mark of artistry. As for me, I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on Mac Miller's Circles. I think this is the first great record of 2020. I'd love to hear from you though. Make sure you sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of this album. Did you enjoy the music? Leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rocking day.